Okay, everybody, hello, and thank you for being with us for this situational briefing here at the MirYam Institute. We're grateful as ever we are. On this occasion, we have Aviram Meir, who is the uncle of a hostage being held inside the Gaza Strip named Almog Meir-Jan. Almog Meir-Jan is a 21-year-old who's abducted from the Nova Festival, and he was then recorded by Hamas in captivity. He was bound and beaten in a broadcast that was then seen and viewed by his mother. His mother has been speaking all over the world and domestically in the States of Israel about the plight of her son. Orit is the name of his mother, and she's been doing with uncommon courage. Aviram, I want to begin by saying that we find ourselves coming together in the midst of what seems to be negotiations for a hostage deal. I don't necessarily want you to talk about the ins and outs or the details of that hostage deal, because I don't think that you're privy to those. I don't think that you're told those. I know that you speak regularly to the relevant powers that be, but obviously there are certain details that they are not permitted, nor do they wish to publicize. What I'd like you to begin by doing is telling us a little bit about your nephew, Almog Meir-Jan, who has been in captivity since October the 7th. And then we'll talk a little bit more about how you feel and how you respond in light of the ongoing hostage negotiations.
Almog, as you said, is 21 years old. He's a youngster, a cool guy, nice guy, who have been finished his duties to the state of Israel and started his own life. After 4 months, he found his very big position in a communication company in Israel, and he had to start a position at the 8th of October. He's a very, very, very funny guy, very social, lots of friends. One story: my father is 87 years old, and 3 weeks before the event, he had a surgeon in his back, a serious one, and he couldn't move after the surgeon. So me and Almog were the only men who could help him take a shower. So Almog did it every 2 days, with no complaints. He took shower of his grandfather, and even he did it in his last day, in the 6th of October, and this Friday, he helped him. This is the guy.
Yeah, he obviously was somebody and remains somebody with a bright future. We say that as we hope for his release in the very, very near term. He's somebody who I've learned a lot about by way of our extensive travel with you and also with Orit, his mother. And I want to know, Aviram, in the midst of all of the hostage release negotiations that are taking place, what is that doing to you, to the family members, as you look on and hear about these discussions that may or may not result in the near-term release of Almog?
I'll start and say that I'm very tired. I'm tired from the process that we are passing in the last 4 months. I'm tired from all the gossip that are running around all the time. And there is a lot of work to be a hostage family, lots of work. We are not stopping working all day long, every day, even the weekends. And so the position that I'm staying here, and I believe Orit will agree with me, we are tired. But we don't have the privilege to rest, so we continue. I'm trying to avoid all the talking about a hostage deal, because I know that there's nothing real yet in the story. I've been today all day long at the Knesset, met lots of members of the Knesset and even talked with some ministers. As I understand, there's nothing still boiled, let's say, or something that it's coming to a final. We are talking between ourselves, the Israelis. We're debating. We like to debate, but the other side don't talk yet. So on the table, there is nothing right now. So this is my attitude. There's nothing to talk about until there will be something. And all the details that 35 people will be released first, and afterwards 45 days of ceasefire, and afterwards all the others, it's all talks between ourselves. Nothing is real, as I understand.
So I want to talk to you a little bit more about that, because on the one hand, Aviram, you've worked tirelessly. I hope it's okay that I tell everybody that you have put aside your work, your job, your income entirely since Almog was kidnapped. You did that to be a support network, and you continue to do it to his mother, your sister, Orit. I've said to you when we've traveled, and we've had the privilege of bringing you and Orit to the United States and to Britain several times. And each time I've said to you that I believe you are the embodiment of what a good brother is, of what a good family member is, of what a loving sibling is. The way that you tirelessly go wherever Orit goes, do whatever it is Orit needs to do, and stand there next to her in service of her and in service of the goal of releasing Almog is really, really remarkable. I mention that because of what you've just said. You've worked tirelessly, and you clearly want to do and want to act and will act. But at the same time, it sounds as though you're feeling as though there is little more that you can do, that you're exhausted of the process, that now you're just in a waiting pattern, a holding pattern. Is that very difficult for you to have those two emotions? On the one hand, wanting to act wherever you can, on the other, feeling that you're in this holding pattern?
There is a feeling that all our work is throwing fish hooks to the Dead Sea. This is kind of a feeling that I'm feeling all the time from one end. And from the other end, I know that we are building a wall with very small stones who are building the wall. And at some time, the wall will be built, and the process will be completed, and Almog will come back. So we are in this kind of roller coaster that goes from the Dead Sea to the built wall that we want to build. And if you ask me today in the morning when I heard the news that the Hamas want more things from Israel, and the significant is that the government won't give them, I wasn't depressed in the morning. Afterwards, I understand that we are talking with ourselves.
So you were depressed in the morning after you heard that?
I've been depressed in the morning. I didn't want to talk with no one. Before I left my house, I read some headlines, and I understand that the situation is more complicated. Every day, it's more complicated. And the return of the hostages will not be happen. And we are afraid that the time will not, they will not be able to come back alive. We are talking about it. We know it's possible. It's one of the possibilities. I hope it won't happen. It won't happen, but it's one of the possibilities. I know that it could be done. It could be.
Aviram, one of the things that we spoke about when we traveled with you in those other countries, in the US and in the UK, was that in the mindset of most people, seeing a video of their beloved nephew or their beloved son or their relative in captivity, being held by a terror organization, would be the most awful, unbearable sight under normal circumstances. But because of the depravity of Hamas and that which that terror organization is capable of doing, actually for you and for Orit, your sister, Almog's mother, and for other family members whose loved ones were filmed in captivity, those captivity videos actually serve to fashion something of a ray of hope, because they are proof of life. They are proof that your loved ones are bound, are in captivity, have been taken hostage, and yet they are alive. Are you still able to cling to that ray of hope, knowing that when last Almog was seen, he was seen certainly as a hostage, but equally certainly alive and in terrible conditions, but ostensibly actually in good health?
You have to understand that in the 7th of October, there were more than 3,200 families who didn't know what happened with their dears. We knew in the beginning that Almog has been kidnapped, but thousands of families didn't know what happened with their dears, and they were frightened. We were in another position. When I saw the video on the 7th of October, I concentrated just on this, and it took me several days to understand the size of the tragedy that we're dealing with. So I was so concentrated in what we're doing to bring him back on the first day that I didn't realize what's going on around me. Today, we don't have a proof of life in the last 4 months from Almog. We don't know his situation, his medical situation, his mental situation, if he's eating, if he's drinking, if it's cold, or so on. We don't know anything. And it makes me worried. And at night, the thoughts are running to bad places. And I'm trying, I can tell you frankly that I'm trying not to think what he's feeling now in the tunnels, because if I think about it too much, I'll go crazy. So I'm trying to be very focused on my new work and not to process the fears and the thoughts and the possibilities, the bad possibilities that there is in. I would like to use my energy for meeting lots of people who can help to bring him back, then thinking about his situation, which is probably despair situation.
Aviram, I hear lots of people speaking about the hostage crisis, and I hear some people, and it's actually growing in volume and growing in size, the group of people who say this. There are some people who are calling for an election in Israel now and a replacement of the government for various reasons, including the notion that the government is not acting with sufficient vigor and energy to have the hostages released. What's your view as a family member of a hostage? How well do you feel that the government is interacting with you? What are your expectations of the government at this time?
My situation is very easy, let's say, because I have one goal that I want to do, which is very clear. I want to bring the hostages back. I have one goal. I don't deal with all of the other challenges that Israel is dealing. I just want to bring back the hostages. So this is what I demand from my government. I don't want to talk about elections. It's not my interests. I don't want to talk of all the other politic problems that we have now. I don't want to talk about the Likud party. which today they talked among themselves and everything came out of the talking and it was dirty talking, like in a neighborhood and not for a governmental party. I just want them to concentrate on bringing back the hostages and to think every Knesset member and government member should concentrate how he's doing it, not fighting with the others, collaborate with the others, and think what he can do for bringing the hostages back. This is the most important mission now in Israel. As I said, lots of missions, lots of challenges, lots of problems, but it won't be solved if the hostages won't come back and will solve this challenge. Afterwards will come all the other challenges, like demolishing the Hamas and so on.
So let's talk a little bit about the challenge of demolishing Hamas. We have a situation where Defense Minister Gallant and now the Prime Minister are saying time and time again that only the military pressure is going to bring about the release and the return of the hostages. What's your view as one family member of one hostage with regard to the effectiveness and the importance and even the prioritization of the military activities taking place inside the Gaza Strip?
It's funny that they say that only military pressure will bring the hostages, because if there were 5 brigades in Gaza, now there is less than 1. So I don't understand. I really don't understand. It's not criticism. I just don't understand what is the connection between hardly 1 brigade who is fighting now in Gaza Strip and demolishing the Hamas. If they wanted to demolish the Hamas, there should have been 5 or 6 or 7 brigades inside Gaza Strip. This is one thing that I don't understand. Generally, I'm thinking they have to balance the power, the military power, with the possibility to do a deal. As we understand, it's impossible to take out the hostages with a military operation because the hostages are under their prisoners. And if the army will go inside the tunnels, the hostages will be shot to death. So if we want to bring them back, the military operation should bring the Hamas, want them to do a deal. And this is the smart part of the idea, is to balance between the pressure and from the other side, the need to do a deal. It's kind of a very delicate balancing, which I demand my prime minister to do, and he can do it. He can do it. This is a very delicate play, and they should do it, and should do it good. Good because they have hostages from one hand, and Am Israel, the general people of Israel that is watching them and want its pride and want some revenge. And they have to balance it also. So I don't see, as they say, a victory picture. I can see hostages and slowly demolishing the Hamas.
When we were in the US and you were just finishing a lecture tour there with us, we sat down and we had dinner. And toward the end of that dinner, you mentioned something that I'd never considered, which was that as you looked at the number of soldiers who are falling and being killed in the context of Swords of Iron, Israel's war against Hamas, that you actually felt responsible in some way, in some shape, some form for their death because of what it is that they're seeking to bring about there. And I was actually shaken by that expression from you. Aviram Meir, you are the uncle of a hostage in Israel. Or rather, Aviram, you are the uncle of a hostage who is in the Gaza Strip. Israeli soldiers are falling in the pursuit of liberating that hostage. What are the feelings that you carry with you as you see the number of IDF soldiers falling and being killed?
Today in the Knesset, I talked with the father who lost his son as a soldier in Gaza Strip. And he showed me a letter that his son sent him, that his first goal is to bring back the hostages. One of the hostages is my nephew. So I know I have a responsibility or some responsibility for the death of the soldiers who are defending Israel and trying to bring back the hostages. We are part of their mission. And if they're getting hurt, it's my responsibility also. Today, we decided, Orit and me, to go visit the injured in the hospitals and to cheer them up and to be with them and to thank them. And we'll do it in Sunday. Next Sunday, we're going to do it in Tel HaShomer Hospital.
Aviram, what is it that you expect of Jewish people around the world and the international community at this time?
To hear the voice, to talk with their politicians, to talk with their communities, to come to Israel and see the situation, see the challenges that we are going to deal with or we are dealing with. Lots of pain. There is a lot of pain here. Just one issue that I know it's going to explode. On the 7th of October, there were 102,000 murders that have been murdered. Their families don't know anything about the situation, how their dears died or they have been murdered. Israel don't consider them as the state, don't consider those families as a challenge. And it's going to explode in our face, especially the Nova families, the Nova Festival families. There are about 400 murders in this festival, and the families are getting lost.
What do you mean getting lost, Aviram?
Losing their minds. They are really losing their minds. They can't go back to work. They don't get any help from the state. They don't get mental help. The uncles and like me and the aunts and the cousins are helping the families to deal with the death or the murder of their sons. And lots of families are not functioning. Lots of families not functioning. I talked today with an aunt of Tomer, the friend who came with Almog to the party. Almog have been kidnapped and Tomer have been murdered. The family is collapsed. The family have been collapsed. They are not functioning. And they have no help from the state. So I think the communities around the world can help us with that, can help us with being here, help us with talking about us all the time, help us maybe financially, help us maybe with their connections, help us with the government, with their government. Pressure on the government that will bring back maybe the hostages and to push all the other challenges that we have. And I talked just of one that is unspoken. There are lots of others.
How is Orit doing? How is Almog's mother?
Almog. Orit is doing great, really, relatively to a mother that her boy have been kidnapped in Gaza, in the worst place in the world. She's functioning, she's coordinating, she's managing her day. She knows what she wants. She's really doing a great work, and she's really doing well considering to the situation. Although she have mental help and psychological help and even medical help.
And my last question for you, Aviram, is a little bit difficult for me to ask, but I must ask it. There are people who, with the passage of time, are losing hope in the prospect that the hostages can come home. What would you say to those people who say that because so many days have passed, because so little is known, it's perhaps time to abandon these hostages? What's your response to that?
I was talking with a week ago. I was talking with school graduates who are going to the army in 6, 7, 8 months. And I was thinking about my message to them. If it's going to be an abandoned message of what happened in the 7th of October, or it's going to be a hope message. And I choose in the hope message because the future that we want to build here is going to be a better future here. It will be very problematic if the kidnapped won't come back. I believe that we have to do everything to bring them back. I don't know how it will end, but we have to believe that most of them are alive. By the way, it's supposed to be a little bit more than 100 hostages that we know, considering today that they are alive. We have to bring them back. And afterwards, we'll build here absolutely gorgeous state. We deal with all the challenges. And we're going to do a very good job for 80 years ahead, at least. But the key for it, as I see it, is the hostages. So we have to believe. We have to go forward.